Welcome to the LTN Sports, Gather Gather Viwanjani, and today we are blessed to have one and only Sammy Owino Kempes. Bwana Kempes, welcome to LTN Sports.
Asante sana.
Give us brief
Thank you for
introduction.
inviting me.
All right, give us brief introduction of who Sammy Owino Kempes is.
Yes. My name is Sammy Owino Kempes. I am a former Harambee Stars player, Gor Mahia, Luo Union. Years ago, because of football, I went to the United States on a soccer scholarship, football scholarship. Stayed there, ended up staying there for many, many years. And then, while I was there, I got involved, continued to get involved in football, started my academy, bought a professional team as well. And then at some point in the last couple of years, I decided to come back to Kenya and give back to Kenyan football. Yes, and so right now I'm here and trying to figure out how I can be involved and help build our Kenya football where it needs to be. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's an awesome introduction. Sammy, you vied for the FKF presidency. That did not materialize. Looking back, what do you think led to that outcome?
I think, to be honest with you, it was an incredible experience. I don't regret it, even though I lost. Shirley and I always joke about it. For all the time and money we spent, we ended up with 2 votes. It's incredible. But what I learned was Kenya football, Kenya politics is complicated. Kenya football is complicated. The voting system itself, the voting itself was okay, but I think the way Kenya is structured right now, the way we are in football, it's not about ideas necessarily. There's a lot more to the elections than ideas, and unfortunately, where we are, that's where we are. And if your focus is on ideas, there's the other stuff involved in the election that has nothing to do with football, and that's just politics in general. And frankly, there was a lot to learn as well, and I did my best to learn, but there's still a lot that I'm learning. But in the end, my experience was good. I learned a lot, and I would not take it back. I think it gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of people, learn about Kenyan football, and here we are. So I'm using that experience to build on it and to see where else I can get involved. My passion is in youth football, and that's where I'm plugging in right now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
What are these direct lessons you learn, both positive and negative, from that experience?
Elections is when you can have ideas about running football, right? But elections are not necessarily about ideas. There's a political side of the elections. And one thing I learned is, unfortunately, the people that actually vote, there's the chairman, which is really mostly the chairman. Unfortunately, a lot of them don't have an interest in football, don't care about football. It's about preservation. And so what ends up happening is that it becomes about, what's in their personal best interest as opposed to what's in the best interest of football. And that's just the way where we are right now. Yeah. But I also made a lot of club people who are involved in not necessarily the chairman of when I talk about chairman, I talk about the chairman of the FKF county. But then there are people who actually own the clubs. Those are very different. Those are people who are actually going through the struggles of club football. And those people genuinely love football. So I got to meet them. If those people vote, if the clubs are allowed to vote, I think our football will be in a different place. And so for me, what I learned is there are a lot of people in Kenyan football who truly love football, make a lot of personal sacrifices, but they don't get the opportunity to vote. And that the people who vote, because that's how the past chairmen set things up, are not football people. And that's where we are. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who love football who are contributing to Kenyan football. And I met those people, and I'm very encouraged because of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
If given a chance in that political ecosystem, what would you do differently now that you have that kind of experience?
Initially when I came, my thought process was that if you sell your ideas to people, that was my thinking, as naive as it is, my thinking was that if you truly sell your ideas to these people, that they will really care. You know, they care and they will look at look at ideas and how you can make Kenyan football better. Um, but I've learned that that's not the case. If an honest answer to that question is I will not waste my time with ideas. I will wait until the last minute, bribe people, and win the election. That's how I'll do it. If the idea is to win the election, I think at the end of the day, somebody gave me that idea way back, and I didn't take it because I was very idealistic. And he told me, Sammy, you're wasting your time with these people. Wait until the last minute. You know, save your money, give them the money. Whoever gives them the most money has the best chance of winning. It's not exactly like that, but it's very close to that. So I think I would have had a better chance if I'd saved all my money, sat home, took that money, and in the last day of the election or in the last week or 2 weeks, spend that money. Honestly, that's the reality of football. Yeah.
Hussein won under the auspices of fresh start. How would you describe the current state of Kenyan football ecosystem?
You know, it's hard to judge somebody this early on in the process. I think over time we will be able to judge Hussein, but it's just too early in the process. All I can say is that um, there are certain things that were promised, and I understand that there's a big gap between promises and actually executing, and that the process, this process of rebuilding Kenyan football is going to take time. So I'm realistic about that. So I don't want to judge anybody too quickly. But all I can say is that from where I stand, when Nick Mwenda was there, my sense was that there was a culture of intimidation and fear that I don't see now. Again, is that a function of the short period of time Hussein is in office? I don't know. But what I know is it's really difficult in life to judge people within a short period of time. Football problems are very complicated, and we need to give him time. So if you are to tell me to judge him, I think it's too early. Yeah.
Okay. With current government goodwill um, in Kenyan football, do you think is the right time for the reforms to be implemented?
Yeah, I think number one, it's good to see the government, contributing the way they have. We have to give the government credit for building stadiums. We have the renovation of the existing stadiums. We have Talanta being built, so it's very exciting from that standpoint. The money being given to Arambe Stars as a motivation, it's very good. Um, but for me, in terms of instituting structures, there's never the right time to do it. The right time is right now. It's always right now. Um, the thing I say about building anything of value is you have to build structures that can last. The incentives that are being given are good, but are they sustainable? My answer to that is no. We need to build things that are sustainable if we want to succeed over a long period of time. So we're all happy the Harambee Stars is doing well and succeeding, and the country is brought the country together. But in terms of that being something that is sustainable, that's not the case. So this is the right time. It's always the right time to start building those structures. Yeah.
Okay. What structural or systematic changes do you believe are most urgent in Kenyan football soccer?
I think the most urgent thing is uh, building of our brand. Okay, and what does that mean? I mean, um, one of the things we had talked about was how do you create a Premier League, in my opinion, that is um, well run, and I think the consensus of people who care about football is that we need to have a KPL type structure within the Premier League where the league is run independent of the federation. The federation has some influence, but independent of the federation, because the federation does not necessarily have the expertise to run the league the right way. So I would say we really need to focus on the Premier League, because when it's all said and done, when Chan goes away, people will want to come back to our football. And our highest football is the Premier League. So that to me, the most urgent thing is building a good Premier League. But with that comes restructuring all our league. And by that I mean the most urgent part of that is building the grassroots at the county, sub-county level. And so whatever is done, I hope, goes back to strengthening our grassroots football. So if I was to say what is the most urgent thing, is building that league system from the top to the bottom, where we create a good Premier League, give it an independent body to run it, but at the same time make sure that the grassroots is strengthened. Yeah.
Talking about Chan, that we've been having for for the past few weeks, right, and also with our Arambe Stars success, the government in place and the funds. What's your opinion towards this impeccable success of our Arambe Stars?
If you go back and look at my interviews, and people again will criticize me for this, but I say that you can always succeed, once in a while. In football is a funny game. You don't have to be necessarily have the best players to succeed. You can always succeed once in a while. But in order for you to sustain that success, there has to be, it's not an accident. You have to build a structure, infrastructure that actually allows you to develop good players that can bring consistent success. I like that we're doing well. Everybody's happy, me included. We're very happy for the national team, and our hope is that it continues. And I think our success comes to a couple of things. Number one, I think, I'm the first person to say, given McCarthy's record, based on his record, I would not have selected him as a coach. But I have to give him credit. It's not necessarily that he wasn't but I looked at his record. 2 times he's coached clubs. The club started well and then didn't do as well as time progressed. And the fact that he had no experience coaching the national team. Those were my reasons. But having said that, you have to give him credit. He's done a good job. He's done an amazing job, to be honest with you. I've looked at him tactically. He's built his defense. Kenya is very good defensively. Even with 10 men, they've been able to stop opponents from scoring. So if you look at his tactical acumen, I'm very impressed. And also what I saw in the 3rd game against Morocco, he made the changes that were necessary, and you saw a lot of things. His man management is really good. So I give McCarthy a lot of credit. So the first thing is the coach himself. He's done a really good job. Secondly is being at home. The crowd has done really well. And then obviously the third thing is, the money. For $1 million shillings, I ran myself to death, So the money has been very, very good incentive as well. But money alone cannot bring success. So being at home, getting that support from the home crowd, the money being what it is, and then having a coach that actually is very tactical and very good at motivating players and managing people. And those are my 3 reasons why I think we're doing well. Yeah.
From your perspective, what should be done in terms of player development, coaching, and management to help Harambee Stars become a dominant force in Africa?
I've always said that where where development starts in terms of doing well at the high level, everything starts from the academy. We need to go back to the academy and build infrastructure at the academy level to where we can consistently churn out good players. But for us to do that, not only do we have to build an academy infrastructure in terms of player development, but what enables us to do that is the coaches. We have to develop coaches. So we have to provide coaching education specifically related to youth football. So we need to make sure that the coaches that we educate coaches on how to develop youth football players. Right now, that infrastructure is lacking in a big way. And in my opinion, that's where the focus needs to be. If we want to maintain that, we have to have good youth coaching, and infrastructure. By that I mean we have to have leagues at the very early level, local league that escalates into regional to national, and then we have to have a way of identifying players, and we have to have youth centers, like centers of excellence, as we call them here, that allows us to identify and put those players in one place. That's what's lacking.
Tell us about the inspiration behind Kipawa Soccer Academy. What gap were you hoping to fill?
Yeah, for me, like I said, the most important part in terms of building our football is in the youth football. And so after the elections, I sat down and thought to myself, where can I have the biggest impact? And that's where Kipawa came to be born. I have tremendous lots of experience in the development of youth football, and so for me, Kipawa to me is I look at Kipawa in multiple ways. Number one, I look at Kipawa as an academy that is our academy that we use to create an academy that develops players the right way and then provides an opportunity for those players, whether it's going to college to get further education like I did, or providing a pathway to professional football. So that's how I look at it, whether professional football locally or overseas. So that's our Kipawa. So I want to provide an example of how to build, how to actually run uh, youth football in a way, in the right way. But having said that, there are other people who are also doing a good job. So secondly is creating, bringing everybody together who's involved in youth football, bringing people together so that we can work together to figure out how we can create those things, infrastructure that's needed, the ones I talked about. So it's not just Kipawa Academy, but how can, through Kipawa, how can we bring everybody also in? And then the third aspect, so that we can work together. The third aspect of that is how can we institute coaching education so that we can improve the standards of coaching at the youth level. So the three aspects of it, for me personally, is my own academy, which is Kipawa. I say my because, but we have other partners. I have Ghost Mule, I have Anthony Origi, I have Sammy Shole. So we are very capable people. How can we build that and be an example of how to run a good academy? Secondly, is how can we work together with other youth academies to where we can bring them all in, and even with the federation to where we can start a league from a very early age that connects all of us together across the country. And then the third part of that is how can we provide coaching education at the youth level so that those youth players are developed at the right way, and also elevate our coaching standards to where when those kids get older, that they can play at the highest level. So those are the things I'm looking at.
Sammy, I want you to emphasize on the grassroots football structures like Kipawa playing in Kenyan's football transformation. Could you kindly just emphasize on these roles
Yes.
that football academies, especially Kipawa, which foundationally is built to improve our football transformation?
So there's obviously you know, the way we look at Kipawa is a couple of ways. Number one, like a player development, right? Number two is a pathway, meaning an opportunities for those players to go overseas. But one of the most important aspects of that is the coaching side. You know, being able to coach those players the right way. What I've experienced with a lot of our players, I want to be a little bit technical, but we get a lot of players who can dribble. It's just a good example. Our kids are very good at dribbling. That's what I've seen. What is lacking in our players is how to play away from the ball, meaning when they don't have the ball. How do you defend, and how do you play when you are showing up for your teammate? Where do you run or creating space for your teammate? There's that aspect of coaching that is lacking here, technically good, but in terms of understanding of the game away from the ball, that's lacking in a big way. So what we're doing is creating a well-rounded player from a Kipawa standpoint. Um, so what we're planning to do is open up, look for facilities where it makes sense, if we have a good facility, because that's critical to the development of Kipawa. So we are partnering with people who have facilities in different parts of the country. We're starting our academies there. The whole idea is to eventually open up Kipawa all over the country. We also want to open up centers of excellence for Kipawa. And then eventually we want to also start a club that's on top of everything else that we're doing, so that those players, as they grow older, have a place to play that they can develop as we prepare them to play at the next level. So that next level could be Kipawa. I'm hoping that Kipawa will have that team that actually plays in the Premier League and becomes one of the top clubs. But we have the infrastructure from the youth system, which is where we're starting, all over the country. So our headquarters will be in Nairobi. We want to start the club, but we want to bring all the best players of Kipawa from all over the country and bring them to this center of excellence that we will create.
Tell us the meaning of the name Kipawa.
Kipawa is obviously talent, right? So the Kipawa was for us is a Swahili word which was important, right? And for us it's about development of that talent, right? So that's really what Kipawa really means, and we want to make sure that we develop that talent.
Having lived and worked in the USA, what lessons from American football management and sports structure do you think you can borrow?
Yeah, US typically is very organized, and structures are normally a key part of anything. What I've learned in my years of being in the United States is that what makes that country different from ours in many ways is that they have structures in place that take care of other things, and that success is not accidental. You work through those structures, and then through those structures you build a systematic way of getting things done. And that's what I've learned from the US that I think is lacking here, is we don't have systematic ways of building things. And our vision here is a lot of it is short term, when in good things are built over a vision that takes time. And so for me, those are the things that I bring, that I see that I'm missing here, is the ability to plan over the long term and to put structures in place that will allow you to realize your vision. And so for Kipawa, that's what we're doing. I'm willing to work with the Federation in any way I can help, specifically as far as dealing with youth football. And so the difference is, that's the biggest difference to me.
Okay. How has your international exposure shaped your vision for Kenyan football?
What do you mean by international coaching?
Exposure.
Exposure, yes, absolutely. So I know I grew up, most of my football was in the US, but I had a chance to deal with football from all over the world. I have partnership with Germans. My club that I was in the US, ACES, has been in partnership with the US for 8 years. Lille, it's a club in France that some years ago we partnered with a little bit, and I went over there to see how they coach. My son actually tried out there, and so I've dealt with not just clubs in Germany, but I've been able to go all over the world and see how things are done, to be able to learn. So I've been to France, I've been to Germany, I've been to Spain, I've been to multiple countries. And when I went to those places, my idea was to learn and see how things are done. So I have this experience that is just not US based. It's based on learning from countries that are actually doing well in football. And I've learned a lot as a result of that experience that I can bring to the table, or that I'm bringing to the table here in Kenya. Yeah.
Tell us more about your football experience from the inception. You started playing in Kenya, somewhere in Karioko, ended up in Europe,
yes,
the US and Europe. Tell us more about what really propelled you to that kind of level.
I was just like every other kid. When I was growing up, I had my dreams. Grew up in Ziwani, and our parents, just like even parents now, when I'm learning that even some of the parents now still think like that. A lot of my parents thought about education as the only way out of our situation, and they saw education as the path to success. But I love football, so I kept playing and playing, and I saw at a very early age that there are opportunities in football as well. But I never thought it was about going to get further studies in the US, because I was, Lule was a Gor Mahia teammate. We got the scholarship at the same time, So I never thought that education would be the pathway to my success. So my mom, I fought my mom about football like every kid at the time did. He never thought there was a way out, but through football I got my education. I ended up playing for Gor Mahia and Harambee Stars very early age. And then through football, I got the opportunity to go and play and go for my education in the United States. And from that, I got my degree in electrical engineering. And then I ended up, studying my football and learning to be a coach. I'm a licensed coach, very highly licensed coach, specifically in youth football, which is my first love because I think that's where you can have the biggest impact. So I focused a lot of my learning after my football career was over in educating myself about youth football, managing, coaching. In addition to that, I went into the development of facilities. So I was able to make deals with municipalities, which is cities and towns, and private organizations. And then from that, I was able to become a developer of facilities. In McKinney, which is a big city close to Dallas, I made a deal for 78 acres. We were able to develop multiple fields. And so I have this array of experience that I gathered over time that I want to bring back here and benefit this country.
What experience would you draw from the Gor Mahia then and Gor Mahia now? And what do you think can be done to elevate the club's status?
Yeah, Gor Mahia is a massive club. It's a big club. Always has been. When I was playing for Gor Mahia, we went to the finals of African Cup Winners' Cup. We lost to Yaoundé Sportif.
Which was that? Which was that?
Was 79.
Okay.
We won. We went to the finals of African Cup Winners' Cup. We won Eastern Central Club Championship 2 years in a row. So Gor Mahia has always been a big club as long as I remember. The difference between then and things have changed in football. Obviously, the internet has changed things a lot. Those days, if you're in the national team hardly changed much. So you knew who was going to be the national team. You knew who was going to be a starter in the national team. But as far as Gor Mahia was concerned, we had our issues. But as far as I remember, we were mostly paid on time. Things were much more organized than I've seen in the past. We were not professionals. So what Gor Mahia did was you were given a job. That's how you were given a job. And so, you worked and played. The way you are rewarded is you are given a job. You are paid allowance per game, but you also worked. So if you are a player, your reward was a job. Right now, obviously, you get paid to play full time, which is a big difference. And social media has changed a lot. But I see a lot more problems now with Gor Mahia that were never there when I was playing, in terms of players getting paid and stuff like that. But the biggest change to me is, that how we used to look at football, how we used to depend on being given a job. So you worked and then you played, versus now where players are being paid full time to play. But to be honest with you, there's a lot of things that have not changed. There are still things in Gor Mahia that I see that we experienced then that that we're experiencing now. I remember when one of my team managers was he lost his job. Is before a game, they first started telling him, "Come on, we're going," which meant today we're beating you up, and that's how he retired as a team manager. And I think to some extent that has not changed a lot. I think there's still that element of the club factions that is just rowdy. So some aspect of Gor Mahia is still the same. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Stakeholder and partnership development. What would you say to potential stakeholders and partners who want to support Kenyan football?
Kenyan football is, we can look at Kenyan football in multiple ways, right? We can look at ourselves as a charity organization where people support us because they feel sorry for us. That's what we can do, which is not sustainable, So, I can't just plead with people support Kenyan football. because you feel sorry for us or something like that. I think we, as federation, we gotta build a brand that where people want to support us, and part of that means that we have to build our football to where fans come to the stadium. That's happening with the football national team. Can we sustain that? And how we sustain that is a function of the structures we've put in place. We talked about building a, a good league, you know, building a good infrastructure at the youth level, creating security at the stadium where people feel safe to come, raising our level of football to where it's more entertaining. Um, all those things will help, you know. So for me, what I will tell, I mean, the bigger question is not what I will tell people who want to support Kenyan football. It's more, what can we tell the federation to be able to create that brand that attracts people. And once the brand is created, then we can go back to our sponsor partners and say, look, potential sponsors, look what we've created. This is the benefit to you when you come in. At this point, if I went to a potential sponsor, I can point to the people who are going to games, national team games. But then what happens when Chan is over? What do I sell? I can sell him Chan, but then what happens after Chan? That's the bigger question. So we need to build a brand beyond Chan. Chan can camouflage a lot of things. It can cover a lot of things. It covers things in not just football, but also in politics, right? It brings everybody together. But I think the biggest challenge is what happens. And it goes back to what I said. We have to create an infrastructure. We have to create, that's going to help us create a brand that is attractive to sponsors. That's what's lacking. There's no shortcuts. Yeah.
In your view, what should corporate sponsors, government, and federation do differently to ensure growth and sustainability?
Sustainability. You know, even if the government wants to support football, and this we've seen in the past, even FIFA wants to support. Okay, so we look at where the money comes from. Money comes from the government, money comes from FIFA, money comes from corporate world, money comes from funds, right? The funds is stadium ticket sales, then it comes with what you sell at the stadium. So those are the where our money comes from, and then it comes to prize money. Like if you go to international games, then CAF gives you prize money for participation or for winning. So football is not a complicated business. So we think about our football, money comes from FIFA. I'm talking about the federation level. Some money comes from CAF. Some money comes from funds who attend stadiums. Then what we sell at the stadium or outside of stadium. Then sponsorship, right? So the areas where we get our revenues are very straightforward, So the government plays a role. We talked about at the county level. They are redoing the Sports Act, I hear. The idea is, can we commit a certain amount of money to the grassroots level? So we build our grassroots football, so we can have money at the grassroots level. The money consistently coming from the government instead of depending on the president deciding that this is what I'm going to do. So now we have consistent finances coming there. And then it comes down to FIFA money is we always know what FIFA money looks like, right? But FIFA will be even more willing to give us more money if we prove that we are doing a good job with the money that they give us. So it all comes back to, can we politically, on the political end, can we have government have a money that goes through the country that's part of the constitution, right? Or a bill, through the Sports Act bill that we can depend on consistently. What can they support at the national level, in terms of, for example, stadiums, right? Government can give money to build stadiums, but government has not been known to manage stadiums properly. So can they outsource that management of stadium to private companies so that those companies can make money but at the same time run those stadiums properly? My issue is, okay, we've renovated these stadiums, we're building a new one. who's going to manage them? Because we know what government does when they manage things. So we need to work on that. So government has a role to play, you know. We have money from FIFA, we have money from CAF. But ultimately, the federation needs to build still, again, even if government gives us money and that money is misappropriated, even if FIFA gives us money and that money is misappropriated, then it really doesn't matter. Who manages those funds? Outside of building stadiums and stuff, the government FIFA federation manages those funds, right? So if the federation does not get its act together, nothing will work. Nothing will work. So it comes back to the federation. All these people we're talking about will be more motivated and willing to give us if our football management is good. So it boils down to the federation in the end.
You've really mentioned very good points and illustrated the sources of revenue. But then again, you underlook the merchandising aspect.
No, I included that.
From your experience, how does it work? Elaboratively.
I think I included that when I said the funds and what we sell to the fans. So when the fans come, they can buy food, for example, concession, which is food at the stadium, drinks, things like that. They can buy merchandise, which is what I said, which was what I meant. So they can buy merchandise. Now, in Kenya here, it's not like in other countries in overseas. The merchandise, people buy second-hand merchandise from anywhere. So it doesn't necessarily benefit the clubs. You know, there's authentic merchandise which can be done. But I still believe that clubs can create their own shops where people identify those merchandise, and they can have ways of people saying this is authentic. And there's something to be said about buying an authentic merchandise. So there are some challenges when it comes to merchandise. That's why I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on it. And part of the challenge is, you know, how do you go around this issue of Kenyans who like to buy, you know, merchandise that's not authentic, you know. But I still believe that there are lots of people who will buy authentic merchandise if there's a way of distinguishing between that authentic merchandise and a fake one. People have pride in saying, hey, but mine is authentic versus yours. So the quality has to be different. There has to be a way of distinguishing that so that people who truly want authentic merchandise can buy those. But in terms of a stadium, when you run a stadium, you have ticket sales. A lot of, you sell, like right now a stadium, do they have a place to buy food? No. It's an issue, right? A lot of money is being left on the table because our stadiums don't provide for the sales of things that people can buy and add to the revenue, you know. So we have a lot of areas where we need improvement. Like clubs, when you as a club, you have your own headquarters, or you have your own field, you have your restaurant, now you have your own store. Now people now come there and buy your merchandise. They have a place where they gather, you know. We have stores, maybe we work with stores around the country to say, oh, okay, if you want Gor Mahia merchandise, go to these stores and buy them. And then those stores give us a percentage of their sales. But it's complicated because of the reasons I told you. Yeah. I don't really look at merchandise as, in Kenya today, as a big source of revenue, but there are other big sources of revenue that I think can come from, you know, selling other things at the stadium, you know. Like, for example, if you have a game between Mashimaji Derby, let's say you go to Mashimaji Derby, and people who are authorized to sell merchandise are selling merchandise, you know, there are people who are going to buy those merchandise there, right? But that has to be organized. There are people who want to buy drinks. There are people who want to buy food there. There's a lot of money we can make out of selling things at the stadium outside of the ticketing. Yeah.
For us to elevate our football brand, especially KPL, and capitalize on the league structures, what's your opinion on how it should be done?
We should look at our league, not just KPL. Everything is related. We should look at our league from KPL to the grassroots. My belief is that we should strengthen our local leagues, meaning our sub-county leagues and our county leagues, they should be very strong. The reason I say we should strengthen that is when you play local leagues, you can minimize costs, because one of our biggest problems is money. A lot of our teams don't have money. And where are some of the biggest expenses? Travel expenses are some of our biggest expenses. So if we can minimize that, then we can allow that money to be spent in other things. So one thing is, let's strengthen our local leagues. Let's remove these layers, which were really meant for raising money for the federation. Because the local leagues, if you look at the old structure, the local leagues did not give money to the federation. But then you had this regional league, Division 2, Division 1, NSL. The federation saw it in its best interest to make these leagues bigger so that they can raise more money, collect more money. We need to look at the sporting interest versus just financial. So we need to create a structure from Premier League all the way to the sub-county league that makes sense. And for me, there's too many leagues in place. I would go from sub-county to county to regional to NSL to Premier League. That's how I'd do it. Cut down that layer, you know. So it's critical. We cannot have success without a good impact. And then obviously we talked about the independence, creating independent leagues from the federation. I'm not saying federation needs to be out of it, but they need to outsource the management of the league. I mean, you are elected as an federation official. You don't have expertise in running the league, right? Yes. So we need to have a secretariat that is made of experts in running the league, you know. And then we need to leverage technology as well, which we don't do as much, you know.
Oh,
yeah.
Finally, if you could give a piece of advice to football stakeholders today, what would it be? Federation, football stakeholders, fans, clubs, players, just the football ecosystem.
Yeah, the advice I would give is we have a lot of potential in our football. Football is an amazing sport. Like we can see now, I've always said, football's ability to bring people together, it's amazing. What Harambee Stars is doing to people's confidence and psyche and to the country, it's amazing. It's amazing. So football has that power. And football also is business too. We have to start looking at football as a business. If we run football the right way, we can make a lot of money. We can create jobs for a lot of people. We can create opportunities for young people. Not just people who are going overseas to play football, but just within the country itself. So football has this potential to do a lot. The thing I say about our stakeholders is that we all have a role to play. Like, for example, you know, there are people who are doing academies now that are doing a good job. Even if they're not doing a good job, they're trying, they're doing their best, you know. Then there are people who are involved in football as chairmen of counties. Those are the ones that vote. I've given up on trying to convince them to do the right thing. I think those ones have lost hope, you know. But we need to fight for, in my opinion, to fight for a federation that's going to manage football properly. We need to demand that we have a federation that takes care of football the right way. I think at the end of the day, if all of us collectively work towards, we do our job, but ultimately, in terms of our responsibility to bring in the right football at the federation football, the right people, and even demand that they do the right thing, I think we can, if all stakeholders have that level of you know, interest in our football and demands from the federation, which ultimately runs our football. And then wherever you are, whatever you are doing for football, just do the best you can, because it's all everybody playing a role. It's not just the federation, it's all of us individually, the coach that's coaching an academy, the owner of a club that's struggling to keep a club alive. All those people just need to continue to do it for the sake of football. Don't be discouraged, because you know, you never know. Things, you know, there's tremendous opportunity in this country, and all of us collectively can make it happen. Yeah.
Sure. Sammy, kindly, would you give us the advice? Maybe send advice to these young players
Yeah.
representing Kenya in Chan
Yes.
with the massive allowances they are getting. What's your advice to these young lads from your own experience?
Yeah, one of the things I said was in Kenyan football, when we were talking about player welfare, one of the things I said is that we should institute a financial education as well as business education. I think sometimes when you get however much money they'll get, let's say 5 million, 10 million, whatever it is, it seems like a lot of money. But my advice to them is that it is a lot of money, okay? It is a lot of money, but also it's not. By that I mean that it's a lot of money that can help you start something if you invest it the right way, but it's also not a lot if you spend it the wrong way. So my advice to those young people is don't just start spending it and buying things and think it's a lot. Think of ways, go to people that you trust that have ideas about investment, you know, where you can put that money to where it can multiply. I know maybe some of them don't have ideas about building business, but there's ways in which places in Kenya today where you can put your money and you can live off of the interest of that money that you earn. Maybe that's something they need to look at. But my advice to them is don't look at that money as a lot of money and start spending, thinking it's going to go away in a very short period of time. So find ways of investing it. Talk to people who, who are good at investing. But also, the other thing I learned about here is that when you get money, you get a million people who want that money. So my advice to them, and some of them are your family members, right? So my advice to them is, I'm not saying don't help, but just be careful because you're going to get those as well. Just know, you're going to get a lot of friends. Some come from the bushes. Yeah, so just be careful. But my advice to them is just invest that money. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, Sammy. Thank you for coming to the interview.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the interview. I appreciate it.